Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast with Benji Naesen for the last Grand Tour stage of the year. I'm pretty buckled and tired, but I'm actually sad that the last Grand Tour is already finished, and I'm already looking forward to the next year. We've still got lots of racing coming up. We've got the Benelux Tour and Ceratizit La Vuelta Challenge full recap tomorrow, as well as the Vuelta full recap on Tuesday. We'll record then. This is just a stage 21 of the Vuelta España recap. We won't cut across the full race recap too much. A 34-kilometer time trial from Padrón to Santiago de Compostela. This is where the famous Camino de Santiago, the pilgrimage to Santiago de Compostela for Christians finishes here, and this is where the Vuelta finishes outside the cathedral. It's a very hilly course, up and down pretty much the entire time, with even a 2K 7.5% climb up to the first intermediate time check. To the second intermediate time check at the end of a 1K 6% climb. Roglič was the heavy favourite. Before we get, I forgot we don't have a breakaway, Benji. Before I read out the results, I want to mention our show partner, Le Col. They produce performance cycling apparel. If you haven't yet, there's the LR Vuelta 20, specifically for the Vuelta, LR Vuelta 20, all caps, discount code for 20% off all Le Col items during the Vuelta España, and you can pick yourself up either the summer gear for the end of summer or going into autumn and winter as well. There's a sale on at the moment, and the code applies in addition to those into already discounted items. But the results, Benji, Primož Roglič finishing in first. How surprised are you out of 10? 0.
Yeah, he was the heavy favorite, but the question was he going to take a lot of risks or not? And you expected him not to take all the risks in the world, but he also would try for the stage. And I think that's exactly what happened here, because the gap to the second person on the stage, Magnus Cort Nielsen, is 14 seconds. But that's also because Magnus Cort did a great time trial today.
Magnus Cort was outstanding. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't believe it. He didn't have a follow car. It's EFTT riders, Benji, the disrespect. Didn't Bissiger come second in a TT this year or win a TT and didn't have a follow car either? And now people know he's good. But yeah, there's an outstanding TT from him. But yeah, here's the full top 10. Roglič first, Cort second, Arensman on 52 seconds, Cort was on 14 seconds, Cherney, they're predictable guys, Cherney on 116, Hager on 143. The next GC guy, Bernal, on 149 in sixth, 3 seconds out of Grosjean and Kreuzweig. Mars on 204, Izagirre on 206, De La Cruz on 214. So Mars obviously set in second, that's fine, no disasters there. The big drama was Haig versus Adam Yates. Haig comes in at 252, beats Adam Yates by about 20 seconds plus, maybe more, 26 seconds. But that wasn't the story of this TT between Haig and Yates. Yates needed to gain a minute on him in GC to take the podium spot of third. Benji and I were quite critical of him yesterday, which I stand behind, how he rode the final stage. He was ninth at the first intermediate, 22 or maybe even 26 seconds ahead of Haig.
Yep.
On the part that suited him. 27. I was concerned, Benji. As a Haig fan, my foot tick was, I couldn't even watch. But I think we're like, I think Yates is really risking it here and putting it all out on the line and could fade.
I think we either had one of the two. We either had a positive split by Yates, where he tried very hard at the start to make Haig panic. So a positive split by Yates at the start, making it very hard for Haig mentally by having those gaps on Haig at the initial part. So going a bit harder at the start, perhaps losing that energy for the latter part of the race. But with the potential ability of making Haig a bit more panicky. And that seems to be what he was trying, because I don't think Haig was doing the opposite. I don't think Haig was negative splitting, was trying slower at the start to make sure he got more energy for the latter part of the race. I think it's, he's just trying a lot at the start of the stage, and at the start of this prologue, perhaps a bit too much.
Yeah, I think so. And it seems he's almost done it on feel. And this is why we were critical yesterday, because he then blew up completely. His splits were Adam Yates. He's 9th at the first intermediate, then 15th at the second intermediate. Haig now only 13 seconds, I think, behind him at let me do some quick maths. It's all so far apart because there's so many people. Yeah, about 14 seconds behind him at the second intermediate. And then 29th, he finishes Adam Yates about a few minutes, 3 minutes back, over 3 minutes back. So 9th, 15th, 29th, fades a lot. And yesterday I thought, well, because the gap was so big at a minute, he had to go out. They probably calculate you need to hold the power that he was holding to the first intermediate for the entire time trial. And he tried to do that and couldn't. Whereas I thought, we thought yesterday, Benji, if he takes 30 seconds on Haig, plus 6, 24 plus 6 bonus, then you don't have to be so aggressive and you can make it a lot closer. So I think he cost himself there. And even Haig in his interview afterwards said, I knew Yates would be up 20 on me plus on that first intermediate time check, and then I needed to just do my power because a minute is such a big advantage. But what do you think? You changed your opinion on Yates yesterday, or stays the same?
I think it stays relatively the same. We've got the fact that yesterday he could have taken time if he kept on pacing. I'm relatively confident he could have taken at least like 10 seconds, 15 seconds more, which would indeed have made it a lot closer today. And that would not have caused him to have to go so fast at the start of the stage today. And yeah, I think that's a huge effect on how he performed in the second and third part of this time trial. I do think towards the latter part of the time trial, like the last 3-ish, 4-ish kilometers, he knew it was gone, the podium, and he probably wasn't racing at 150% anymore to try and take that podium. Because if you're like, I think he was like half a minute behind virtually on Haig at that point in the time trial. So yeah, it certainly wasn't going his way, and we knew it was going to be Haig on the podium at that point. And he didn't have Mader so close behind him in GC, so he could do that in the final few kilometers. I'm pretty sure he did, based on the time trial, because Bernal beat him by like a minute and a half, right? If you look at it.
Yeah, I know. Like, huge. This is Matt Bernal's one of his best ever time trials, and incredible for him. And he had nothing to gain because the GC gaps were so big. What's funny, Benji, is if he was on the right side of that split yesterday, if it was him but not Yates, he comes third in this Vuelta. And it's just funny how that worked out, that he was the guy he attacked, and then Yates went first, and I think Yates did do the most damage yesterday.
Yep.
But then Bernal countered, and then Yates countered off that, and then Bernal did the right teammate thing, and he laid Lopez off the wheel. So yeah,
I think Bernal would have gotten dropped on the final climb yesterday if he was in the first group, knowing the form he had in the last week. Personally, that's my take at least. But hey, we never know.
Other performances, Koos, Benji, GC Koos, TT long form TT Koos. Was he trying today?
Certainly was trying. He had to try and keep his GC spot, like he has to, and that didn't work. He lost 5 minutes on the winner today, which is very significant. This is a minute worse than Guillaume Martin. Guillaume Martin lost his 8th spot to Sepp Kuss, who dropped from 7th because De La Cruz made a leap from 9th to 7th in this final time trial, something De La Cruz probably didn't even think about when he started off this time trial this morning. So yeah, what a bloody ride by De La Cruz. The only person to move up in the top 10, and doing so for 2 spots is, expected for 1 spot, but 2 spots is significant, and that's all thanks to Sepp Kuss's performance here. But in the end, what do you think about Sepp Kuss overall this Grand Tour? Because he was pretty consistent except for like the last 2 days.
Doesn't that mean he's not consistent?
I tried, okay.
That's just it. We said it before the Vuelta, this is how he rides, and it's why he can't really be a leader. That's not a criticism. He doesn't say, I should be the leader, make me the leader. He said, I am happy with my role, and his role is incredible high mountain rider, and either as a domestique or going to stages. And he was able to do that in the Vuelta. He helped Roglič in pivotal moments in the high mountains. Again, he was there. Medium mountains, just not good. And maybe they should set. Did he do Liège this year, Benji? I feel like it would be good for him to do an Ardennes season to help in those medium mountain stages personally.
I don't know. I'm not sure whether doing those races automatically makes you a good rider at them.
True. He hasn't done a single one-day race this year. He's only done stage races. Last year, the only one-day race he did was World Champs. So in In 2 years, he's done one day race, and one was for America. Jumbo-Visma do not send him to one-day races. Maybe, I don't know if that's the solution. I'm not like a trainer or whatever, but it's just, as is interesting. It's unusual to see that for a guy who climbs as well. Maybe they should be getting him to do Lombardia, Emilia, those sort of races. Would that help? I'm not sure. His TT, though, finishing 5 minutes behind, with guys just going for the time cut it's unusual because his prologue was so good. And Benji, in the high mountains, his power profile, he on the 50-minute climbs is where he's good. It's so weird, like that he seems to be good at these prologue. What is it? It must just be comfort in the position.
Comfort in the position, or do you think that it's the mental factor of riding alone that has an influence here? I don't know how much influence that can have, but perhaps that is the case because the situations that we see Kaz usually in, he's not usually riding alone. I think the last time I've seen him ride alone was, I don't know, the stage when he had in the Vuelta a few years ago and the Tour de France this year for that tiny bit after that climb.
Yeah, my guess would be that it is just not being used to being able to put power out for 45 minutes in the TT position, whether it's his hip or whatever. That'd be my guess. But anyway, because I don't know, maybe it's his position, because on some of the other TTs he's done, his power's like not bad. And because he puts his power down on Strava. Anyway, that's enough on Sepp Kuss. We should tell you the final top 10 GC. Roglič wins the Vuelta 4 minutes and 42 ahead of Enric Mas, 7:40 ahead of Haig, who finishes a minute and a half ahead of Adam Yates. Gino Mader takes the white jersey on 11:33 in fifth. Bernal 6th on 13:27. De La Cruz 7th on 18:33. Leapfrogs Kuss in 8th on 18:55. Guillaume Martin drops down to 9th on 20:27. And Großschartner did a pretty good TT today, but stays in 10th on 22:22. Do we both have Roglič for the Vuelta in the preview?
I think we did. Yeah, I think we did. Right. But one final note that we can't just skip over, the fact that we saw some illegal racing in the race today. Kruijswijk was caught cheating with a dragonfly on his shoulder, helping him with, clearly the wings of the dragonfly helped him with the watts, 50 watts per wing slap. I feel it.
Mate, first Jumbo-Visma have Wout van Aert at 187 centimetres on their website, then curiously change it to 190 centimetres the next day. If you don't know the TT the extensions rule, you got to be 190 centimetres. I'm sure he is 190 centimetres. Now there's dragonflies on riders, outrageous stuff. But yeah, otherwise points jersey, Jakobsen finishes and wins the points jersey. So they changed it this year, which Benji and I weren't professional enough to know on the preview. I don't think for certain, and it was more geared towards sprinters. Oh, really? Oh, the rules, yeah, it wasn't our fault.
Yeah, and the rules were wrong on one page, and on the other page it was the other point system. So eventually I thought it was going to be the one that they eventually went for, ended up asking it, and it seems like that was the case indeed. So Jakobsen takes it with the other point system. Roglič takes it. It's as simple as that. And I'm happy that this changes here. What do you think about it?
I prefer it. I don't like the points jersey should be for a guy who's at least winning, like contesting the bunch sprints. Doesn't have to win them all. I'm just contesting them. KOM goes to Michael Storer on 80 points ahead of Roman Bardet. DSM 1 and 2 there. I'm pretty happy with that for Storer. And youth jersey, young riders jersey, to Gino Mader. Already mentioned that ahead of Bernal, which we'll talk about Mader in a sort of off-season podcast or on the proper recap. Teams goes to Bahrain, I believe, Benji, as well.
Yep, Arashir on the podium, mate.
The GOAT. That's the thing. Landa could have been on the podium here with the team. It's just quickly touch on it, Benji. The Lopez stuff coming out, it's looking like everyone's pouring more oil on the fire. We've got Nzue in the Spanish public broadcast. We've got Lopez Entourage putting stuff out. It seems no one's really happy with the statement that was actually put out by Movistar yesterday. Putting that to one side, I think we've said it before. Landa deserves almost more criticism than Lopez. Lopez cost himself, really. Like, apart from Rojas doing a pull he didn't need to. He cost himself. Landa, he could have been on the team's classification here.
Exactly, but when it comes to like the Lopez stuff, there's just so much chaos going on. I'm just glad that they found them, because that was a worry we had yesterday. During the podcast, we didn't know whether they would find him again, but they did find him, and yeah, we've got indeed Nzue talking, but also Lopez's family and everybody pouring oil, like you said, every single time on each side is difficult for the viewer of cycling, the follower of cycling, because they don't know what to believe, which story to believe, and that brings up narratives from left and right to try and get their own story out. That's what happens when a team is extremely intransparent about what happens, or at least says something completely different than the rider. It's only going to get more chaotic and dramatic from that point onwards. But in the end, I have a pretty honest take about this. I don't really care. Like, I want to see him again next year, and whether he leaves the race or not, it's not like it influences my life. So why would I care?
Yeah, exactly. I find it interesting when there's the different rumors and stuff, and I really want to get to the bottom of what actually happened. Did they tell him to stop or not? So if there's more developments there, I'll probably release a video or some form of content after the Vuelta in the next coming week. But I want to give a big shout out to, I guess, our second rest day podcast guest, Benji Jack Haig, for getting on the podium. Crashed in the Tour de France stage 3. He was, going to be Lucas Hamilton's domestique in the Giro d'Italia last year for Bike Exchange after Yates, I think, had COVID. And then they had to pull the team out. He's left Bike Exchange, and in his first year at Bahrain, third at the Vuelta a España. Let's fucking go. Like, it's only the start. I think he can. There's a lot to improve on. That's the easiest stuff to fix, because it's the TT, Benji. Like, that has to really be a big focus in the off season.
I think so as well. Like, his time trial today was decent, but it wasn't at a level where he can be certain of future podiums again. So if he can get that up a bit more, I think he didn't go to the wind tunnel or something this year. I at least read that somewhere very recently. I don't know if that's completely the case, but I'd expect him to go back and get that position completely settled down, get himself completely settled down for time trials, and I think he can probably get a bit more out of that, and that will be useful, because we know in the current day and age that time trials are very important for injuries. I looked at a podium, the one Aru won, the GC Aru won. That was ahead of Rodriguez and Maika. Such a different style of podium. Those were 3 riders where their time trial on paper is not godlike at all. Rodriguez, infamous for having shit time trials. We've got Maika as well, not great at time trial, and Aru winning that. I don't remember whether that race had a time trial or not, but now every single one of the Grand Tours has a time trial, and it just proves that time trial is key to being a winner of Grand Tours, and that is something he'll need to gain if he wants to win a Grand Tour at some point during his career. You think he can?
Win a Grand Tour?
That's a difficult one, huh?
The problem is the one that suits him the most is kind of the big one, the Tour de France, because he's like the inverse of Wiggins in that he's like tall, he's powerful on the flat on the road bike.
Are you saying Wiggins is tiny?
No, I'm saying Wiggins. I'm saying Wiggins TT is pretty good. Pretty. I mean, Wiggins today probably tops 10. They get him off the GCN couch, even probably half pissed, cigarette in mouth. I reckon he still comes maybe top 5 in this TT. That's how good he was in the TT. So they got to get his custom extensions or whatever sorted, Bahrain, get his TT sorted, because the thing that's almost impossible to fix is when a guy's tall and on a 7% long climb can't do 6.1, 6.2 for 40. And it's like, well, he can do that, and then you got the draft. So, and that's why Tour de France, you don't see Gamonitera in the Tour de France. So that's why that suits him a bit more. Problem is there's 2 guys called Pogačar and Roglič there, as well as a whole host of other characters. So maybe a Giro, Benji, but I think he's better in the heat. What about 1 week races? I reckon Paris-Nice, if without the 2 Slovenians, should suit him if he fixes the TT.
Yeah, but let's be real. If you podium a Grand Tour, who the fuck cares about the 1 week races? I don't.
Mate, Richie Port crying at home. What do you mean? Richie Port podium Catalunya, all those races. You're so mean. Yeah, I think, what do you expect? Do you think it's possible for him to a podium a Grand Tour again?
Podium a Grand Tour again, yes. I think he's got almost a better chance than Landa, perhaps, considering the current situation.
100% better than Landa.
Well, I don't want to completely call it out, because Landa at the start of the Giro was looking pretty fire for a podium at the Giro. So we can't just scrutinize him just before this Vuelta, even though I didn't appreciate the fact that he didn't work and just left. But anyway, I feel like in the end, it doesn't really matter. But
We'll
I do
see.
believe that Hay can podium once again in the future. Winning will be very difficult with the current situation with the talents that are here and upcoming. We're talking about Pogacar, but what about the next Pogacars of this world? What about Carlos Rodriguez in the future? An Ayuso, that Norwegian guy, Johannesson.
Johannesson.
Shit's gonna be crazy, mate.
And Bernal. Bernal's still looking like Bernal third week. I know he looked like was bad back Bernal in the first couple of weeks, but yeah, he set third week was very, very strong. What about last question, Benji? Roglič, in my view, gifted Champs-Élysées the stage yesterday. You cannot change my mind otherwise. Everyone comment down below, change my mind, whatever.
Well,
he did not chase Champs-Élysées when he could have. If he had accelerated with 700 meters to go when Mas was pacing on the climb, he would have closed down Champs-Élysées. Also, we forgot to say, by the way, Roglič recreated the meme of where the car takes off the motorway today. He nearly went the wrong turn. But that was pretty funny. But
but it could have gone way worse, Like, imagine if he had to brake a bit faster and it could have crashed him. Yeah, it could have been worse,
Classic
but it
Roglič
didn't, so
moment.
that's good. But yeah, continue.
He gifted Champs-Élysées the stage win in my mind. Today, he goes full out and beat Court in the stage. And yet, when some people think he gifted Court the Cullera stage, why is TT gifting not a thing, but in-stage gifting, or not contesting rather, is a thing?
I don't know. It's a good question. I think yesterday I agree with him being able to have won the stage, but I'm not necessarily seeing it as gifting because it probably wasn't in his mind. It's because Champouzin at the front that I'm not going to be chasing here. He probably was just like, I could use his energy tomorrow probably. But was it worth it then? I don't know. It's a good question that you're asking. And the answer is pretty simple. I think he could have won yesterday and he wouldn't have had to do all that today. But then again, he would have loved to win this final time trial, I think, to finish it off in the red jersey.
I think so, yeah. It's interesting, those sort of things. It's like just these sort of inconsistencies. Anyway, we're going to wrap up and watch the podium presentation. We'll have the full recap, all the drama across the 3 weeks of the Vuelta on Tuesday. But we hope you enjoyed the recap of the final time trial. Actually, not too much drama. Everything went sort of as expected, except for Roglič trying to take a bit of a detour. But if you like the Vuelta coverage from us during the last 3 weeks, make sure to give us a review or a rating on podcast players, or subscribe to the YouTube channel and help us get to 20,000 subs. It's not too late to get to that 20,000 goal. Until tomorrow, ciao.